Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another special edition of Connor's Takes. Well, special in all the wrong ways. I did not expect this day would ever come. I expected a lot different, and to be honest, I'm still not fully recovered from this yet. But if you're just joining us and you haven't been on the internet all day, not only do I envy you, but I apologize for having to break your heart right now. The Buffalo Bills have officially traded Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans for a 2025 second round pick. And I'm still kind of just a little sad, kind of hurt, really. I didn't think it would end this way with Stefon, but it did.
You know, it just really just, it stings in a way that the old era of Buffalo Bills football is over. And, obviously, you're talking about an era that it also includes Josh Allen. Obviously, you're not going to trade your franchise quarterback, but you
Oh,
can
please.
trade and retool around the franchise quarterback. And that's technically what the Bills are doing right now. What did this old era bring to the Buffalo Bills? A lot of regular season success, tons of division titles, and only one AFC championship appearance.
Hmm. And you
The
lost
Bills are
that
looking for
appearance.
something greater.
Mhm.
Just
That is
they're
very
just looking
true,
for something greater. You know,
and they need
the
something
old
greater.
they do.
I mean, whatever you had was not working. This era was something to be proud of because this is the best stretch of Bills football that we've seen since the 1990s, but even Jim Kelly and that crew could make a Super Bowl.
Sure.
Josh Allen and crew have yet to get there, but it's not for a lack of putting up incredible fights. I mean, AFC Championship game was tough. Obviously, the 13 seconds game last year, the Bengals game a few years ago. I mean, just don't really have many words because there's just not much that the era brought in terms of what the main goal is. Obviously, the
Right.
main goal of any franchise is to win the Super Bowl. And if you feel like you've got a team that's in position and you fall short, it hurts.
Yeah, that is true. This Bills team obviously didn't, with Stefan Diggs and everyone else on this team didn't make the Super Bowl. There was still a lot of good that came out of it, a lot of good moments, a lot of moments you keep and cherish. But
Mm.
also goes back to what we talked about, most here on the show last year, and things that we brought up this year on the show is that the age of the Buffalo Bills were showing. It showed in several games this year. It possibly showed up in one of the biggest moments of maybe Stefan Diggs' career. One of the biggest letdowns, maybe you could say, in Buffalo Bills football was in the playoffs just last year. It was a hard season with injuries because some of these older players were hurt, and then there's Stefan Diggs that just wasn't the same player that he was weeks 1 through, end of October, because you can just go through it throughout the season, is that his age definitely showed as a
Mhm.
30-year-old wide receiver going into a 31-year-old wide receiver, just wasn't the same player, didn't have the same energy, and he just didn't bring the same flow. And it really, the stamp on all this was when he dropped maybe the most important catch in his Buffalo Bills career to possibly put the Bills back into a spot of the AFC Championship, but he dropped that ball in maybe the most crucial moment, and then
We were
he didn't
so
drop
we
during
were so close, Paul, to a second version of the Diggs sideline touchdown, unbelievable call, but he dropped the ball. He just
yeah,
dropped it. I mean, Allen placed it perfectly,
it was a
but
perfect placed ball and just
it wasn't, so much as the age as well as the cap. I mean, the cap came to bite the Bills square in the ass, and that's
Mhm.
even with all the moves made. I mean, look at how many players the Bills have already had to let go, and now Diggs is added to the list, but there's still positive net gains here. And even if you don't think so, I'll always have to be the raging optimist of any fan base because despite how unfortunate the circumstances are, there's things to look forward to. So I guess that's a good segue to get into the first topic. Diggs is gone.
Yeah,
What's next? So, it seems as if it's kind of hard to talk about really because I'm still just a little disappointed, but it seems as if now this is a full roster reset in terms of getting a youth movement started in Buffalo. In a way, it kind of reminds me of how the Green Bay Packers are right now. The Green Bay Packers have the youngest team in the league, and look at how far they got. They were a seventh seed, upset the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card round, and almost beat the eventual Super Bowl, uh, the NFC champions in the divisional round and the 49ers. And this team is set up for success for a long time because of just how young they are. And I feel like we're trying to implement something very, very similar, which is getting younger all across the whole team. I mean, now with Diggs gone, I think the oldest player on the team, I believe, is Von Miller, and
yeah,
Diggs was right behind him. And now
mhm,
Diggs is gone. So, the team is getting younger, and that's a huge plus. And then on top of that, all of the players in the draft, I mean, they're all young guys, obviously. They're going to be on rookie contracts. And, it's going to be very interesting to see just how much we can move forward. I want to pull up this tweet here really quickly. Notable Bills offensive players with multiple years left on their current contract deals and their ages. So you've got Josh Allen, who's 27. You've got James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, and Khalil Shakir, who are 24. Curtis Samuel and Dawson Knox are 27. Deion Dawkins is 29. Osiris Torrance is 24. And Connor McGovern is 26. That's a really, really impressive number if you think about it. I mean, the team is getting younger, and it's just nice to see because this is a team that, barring something catastrophic, should be able to stay around for a while. As long as Josh Allen is Josh Allen, this team is not dead. But I feel like what this move signaled and what Bean's press conference signaled is that this team is moving in the direction of wide receiver, not just in round one, but in multiple rounds at this point. You got to think. I know Bean had said in the press conference that if a player, on the defensive side of the ball that was really good fell to the Bills, that he'd consider it, but I just don't feel like you can. I feel like Bean couldn't say as much as he wanted to say, I'm sure, because he would have been giving his hand away, to all the other GMs who have undoubtedly seen exactly what he's got up his sleeve. So it's it's gonna be interesting. The draft just got a whole lot more spicy because now there's a possibility that the Bills could in fact trade up into the top 10 with the package, with with the extra second rounder that they received from Houston, which was Minnesota's second rounder. And that's a good thing as well, because heaven forbid if you happen to trade or if you happen to not trade that pick and the Vikings do what is projected and finish in the bottom 5 of the league, that's a pretty high second round pick, almost a first round pick.
Right.
So there's positives, even though it seems like there's not many. And, I'm definitely, I'm still pretty upset and just kind of distraught about all of it. But at the end of the day, there are still positives to what's going on. And those positives are being this team is getting younger, this team is getting cheaper, and we still have Josh Allen, we still have Dalton Kincaid, we still have James Cook, and Bean's not done. I don't think Bean is done whatsoever with adding players to the offense, whether that's through the draft or even free agency, because still got plenty of time left.
The wide receiver room of the Buffalo Bills, it's reminds me of the current situation in Jacksonville. There isn't a true one. It's just
A
a
bunch of twos
possible
and
two and
threes.
right, bunch of twos and threes. Shakir, even though he's a good receiver, I don't think he's ever going to evolve into a number one receiver. I think he'll be a solid two option. Curtis Samuel is your starting slot option, so he's probably a two A or two B type receiver. And then you can get into Matt Collins, who's just going to be, possible three A.
Mhm.
On most depth charts is a wide receiver four, blocking wide receiver. So the Bills lost, a lot just from trading Diggs per se on the wide receiver front. You know, they you know, they lost a whole chunk of their receiving game just through Stefon Diggs.
Mhm.
But in a way, you could say they also didn't lose much because of how much even though Stefon Diggs was a key role to this Buffalo Bills team. He also cost the Bills in a lot of areas you would thought a wide receiver shouldn't cost you.
Mhm.
In drops and interceptions well targeted. While I was thinking about this earlier, like how much are the Bills losing? It's how much the Bills might gain in offense because in
To your
Stephon
point,
Diggs' tenure as a Buffalo Bill, he had 29 drops. He also had 13 interceptions. He cost Josh Allen 13 interceptions while targeted. Per se, this was from the last two seasons. The last two seasons, Stephon Diggs had 8 drops. The last two seasons, and then last year, he had 6 interceptions well targeted toward him. So
mm,
was it? I'm not saying the lack of success on offense was Diggs, but it definitely shines a light where if he wasn't the forefront of this offense, Josh Allen was in a way forced to throw to Diggs,
mhm.
depending on how the mood of maybe the locker room was that day or that evening or how it transpired throughout the game. You look at the Bills' offense in the first half, the second half, it was more efficient in the second half of the
I
season
was actually about to
rather
say
than
that.
what is in the first half.
Mhm. For what it's worth, Stephon Diggs, weeks 11 through 18, 8 games played, 37 receptions, 4.6 per game, 349 yards, 43.6 yards per game, 9.4 yards per carry or catch, whichever, and one touchdown. Bills went 6-2 and scored 26.4 points per game with the number one receiver doing that. So you are absolutely right. They're absolutely going to be able to replace that in the draft if they wanted to go that route, which more on that on the second topic.
Yeah, the wide receiver room currently for the Buffalo Bills right now isn't terrible. The situation could you could really think about it. In most cases, what the receiver room was in Minnesota after Diggs compared to what the Bills receiver room is without Diggs, it's probably better. The Bills probably have it better than what Minnesota had it when Diggs left, because even though they added Justin Jefferson, it still is just Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. You look at Buffalo, it's the Bills are losing Stefon Diggs, but they also have Shakir and Samuel to complement to whoever they will get in a potential draft pick or a potential trade for a receiver, as we will talk about in just a few minutes. It's that it's an interesting situation where the Bills are in because they still have other places they have to add to.
Mhm.
And this puts Brandon Bean in a very sticky situation, but he's in the sticky situation because the obvious is known is that Diggs just wanted out. It's going to stay hidden that he didn't actually want out, but he most likely forced himself out of Buffalo, and that's why we're $31 million in dead cap right now. But that doesn't mean we're stuck in this dead cap, or because the Bills will have a whole bunch of cap space to work with next year. We'll also talk about that in the later on in the show. But I guess another piece of this, we could touch on it now. I touched on it later as well. How closed is the Bills' window?
It's
Post
closed.
Diggs. How closed do you think it is, or is it even not?
It's not even closed. As long as you have Josh Allen, this window's never closed. And that's more to elaborate on in the third topic. But yeah, this window is not closed. I don't care what anybody says. People are all like, "Oh yeah, the Bills window's closed. Window's slammed shut. Can't ever win a Super Bowl now." Oh yeah, all right. All right. What did Josh Allen get traded to? Knock on wood that he doesn't in the time I said that. But let's actually jump into that second one because this
Yeah,
is
let's
where
go
it's
for it.
going to get fun. Wild ideas for Stefon's replacement. Oh, by the way, the Tampa Bay Lightning have opened the scoring against the Maple Leafs. They're making me happy. Something's making me happy today. I just need the Lightning to win this game in spite of the Diggs news. All right. Anyway, so obviously we had talked about the draft earlier. Trading up seems like it might be the play now to go get a guy like Malik Neighbors or Romo Dunze, which I would love. Young guys, and especially with what's rumored about how much the Bills love Malik Neighbors. That would be an incredible get for us to be able to go up that high and get Malik Neighbors because I just
Mhm.
don't see the team or being really in a position anymore to be comfortable at 28 and having to choose between a guy that would have been a good complement to Stephon Diggs or a guy that could be the wide receiver one right now. And all the guys down at that 28 range that we had been talking about for months, Adonai Mitchell, Keon Coleman, Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, all of them just seem like guys that you put in as twos and threes to complement Diggs. And now there's no Diggs. So you can't force one of them to immediately be the one and take those reps away from guys like Shakir and Kincaid. You need to go and get somebody that could be that wide receiver one right away. And I feel like if the Bills and being love Malik Neighbors enough, they'll figure it out. They'll make a Julio Jones type trade like the Falcons did with the Browns all those years ago. They'll figure something out to get up into the top 10 to grab him because there's plenty of teams out there that could trade down. I feel like the Giants are in one of those situations where they could do any number of things with their pick. I believe they picked 6th. They could do
Yeah.
anything with that 6th pick, even as far as taking a quarterback because Daniel Jones is not it. Or they could try to give a guy that might not really be the long-term answer a wide receiver, which seems like a questionable pick to me. They could try to protect Daniel Jones with an offensive lineman, or they could just get another quarterback and admit Daniel Jones is a failure and move on. It seems to me like the Giants would be a team that might go, wait a minute, maybe we could get all these picks from a needy team like the Bills and jump up that high or get all of those picks. Sure, let the Bills jump up that high to 6. At that point, we probably could get Malik Neighbors because if the draft board falls the way I think it would in that situation, Caleb Williams obviously to Chicago, Drake May to Washington, Jaden Daniels to New England, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals, and then probably a guy like Brock Bowers or Joe Alt to the Chargers. Probably Brock Bowers. They really do need a tight end. The Bills would then slot in at 6 if they could figure a way to get there, and there you go. Malik Neighbors is a Bill. But I say that and leave one bit open what I actually want to have happen. And this is where the chaos comes in. Paul, you already know where this is going because I've been trying to delude myself into thinking the Bills could do this. And I am about to try to make everybody watching and listening deluded in the same thought process. There is a wide receiver, a very young wide receiver who is very good at this game of football, who just lost his quarterback to free agency. This wide receiver is only 24 years old, so he'd still be a very young guy. Rumor has it that he's not very happy with the fact he no longer has a quarterback that can play on an MVP level. So, what would it possibly take to get Justin Jefferson out of Minnesota and into Buffalo? That's kind of what I'm trying to delude myself into hoping happens. It seems to me like if the Minnesota Vikings were serious about starting over, because you already let your quarterback who was on an MVP level pace before he got hurt, you
Mhm.
let him go to Atlanta. It seems to me like you just want to start over. So if you really want to start over and Justin Jefferson wants to leave, supposedly, I don't have any proof of that. I'm not a Vikings insider and I don't know Vikings insiders. But if he really did want to leave, why shouldn't Bean get on the phone with the Vikings GM and be like, "Hey, if Jefferson wants out, you guys are basically rebuilding at this point. Shoot me an offer and give me what you got." And then see if Bean would be willing to take it. It would be a huge haul, kind of like the Tyreek Hill haul when he went to Miami. But you're telling me you wouldn't take that, like a first, maybe this year's first, this year's second, next year's first, so on, so forth, whatever, to get a guy like Justin Jefferson, who people 2 years ago were saying was the best wide receiver in the whole league? I mean, to me, it seems like the avenue is there and the Bills need to find a way to figure it out. Of course, there's always the possibility of Brandon Ayuk. He's been talked about a lot. T. Higgins has been talked about a lot, but T. Higgins, I don't know. I'm kind of bullish on T. Higgins. I feel like T. Higgins would immediately have to be the one. Like, I don't think you would put Khalil Shakir or anybody
Mhm.
else as the one or Curtis Samuel if you got T. Higgins because T. Higgins wasn't the one in Cincinnati. He was behind Jamar Chase. So, I mean, I don't know. It just seems to me like another Juju Smith Schuster moment. A guy who's really,
Mhm.
really good as a two, all of a sudden gets thrust into the role as a one, and then just can't play the game as a one because he can't break free of the constant coverage or double coverage a one gets. So that's kind of why I'm bullish on T. Higgins. I wouldn't be mad if they signed him and still drafted a wide receiver, but doesn't seem obvious to me. I feel like if you're going to try to trade for a player at that position at wide receiver, you got to try to see what the Vikings want for Justin Jefferson if they wanted anything at all. Call
Yes
it
and no, I
delusional.
guess.
Call it delusional all you want, Paul, but you know I'm literally right.
It's I think Bean's always interested in anything. If it comes up to be, he's going to give the call. But, you know, trading all that, here's the thing. You're going to trade all that to only get one wide receiver when you can trade maybe half of that of what you could for a Justin Jefferson. You can go get like a Malik Neighbors or a Roman Dunze, and you could still add another wide receiver at that same age. you know, 20, whatever, however Roman Dunze, and think Neighbors is 20 years old. You can draft another guy. There's probably an older receiver who played about 5 years of college that's going to be there in the later rounds. You get two wide receivers for the price of trading for one, you know,
Yeah,
and you
I
still
mean,
have that future setup
you're
after
not
here because
wrong.
look, you got Curtis Samuel for at least 1 year. I mean,
Mhm.
possibly more. Did Curtis Samuel sign a multi-year deal? Just remember that. So you have Curtis Samuel for about 1 or 2 years. It's about 2 years here. But what about after that? You got to continue thinking. You know, if you're probably thinking about this year, but you're also thinking about 2, 3 years into the future. Trading for Justin Jefferson probably trades picks probably 2, 3 years into the future because of the talents that Justin Jefferson gives you. You trade
That's
for
just
Roman
it, though.
Dunze, you're only probably going for this year's picks and next year's picks, and you still will have a ton of next year's of 2025 picks left available to continue building the team that you want to construct for your new era, right? The Bills are still in the hunt for a Super Bowl. You know, the Justin Jefferson trade would be the Von Miller trade of the Los Angeles Rams, where
Oh, yeah.
the Rams were all in for that 1 year. And look at where the Rams are now. They're still dealing with, we're in 2024. That was about that was traded 2 years ago, and they won the Super Bowl, and they're still feeling the effects of that Von Miller trade. If you're the Bills, well, yeah, it's trading for Justin Jefferson probably gets you to the AFC Championship, if not
Get you to
winning
the
your
freaking
first Super
Super Bowl.
Bowl.
What do you mean?
It gets you right, gets you to the Super Bowl. But what about after that? What about after the 2024 season?
Justin Jefferson
You're
is
still going
24 years old, by the way. And look at all the cap that
true.
they've already created. Even if you pay Justin Jefferson what he wants, If you give him that contract, you're still going to have enough to wiggle your way around to keep other players. We're not in the
Yeah.
Dolphins situation. Don't forget that. We don't have 15 guys that we all got to pay at one time. So we have to lose all the critical pieces. We only really lost two critical pieces in Mitch Morse and Stefon Diggs out of all those cap casualties. And even then, Diggs wasn't really a cap casualty. He just wanted out.
I'm not against trading for a guy like a Justin Jefferson. I think I'm more on the lines of, you know, what about this year? What about the few years after? Because even though the Bills are still all in it to win, you there's the fight between being all in it and then all in it to win it to then the other side of me is, well, I want to be all in to win, but one Super Bowl, even though it's great, it's wonderful, but what about winning another one? You want us to sustain the success for one Super Bowl, but what about sustaining the success after that and trying to win two, maybe three Super Bowls after you won the first? And that's the drawback of saying, let's not like fully, completely wash off all of our picks into trying to trade for, a guy like a Justin Jefferson or even a Brandon Ayuk, who I would love on this team, by the way. Brandon Ayuk would certainly be that number one for the Bills, that he could do everything plus the kitchen sink. Brandon Ayuk would be awesome in a Buffalo Bills uniform.
Hmm.
But that came with the caveat of trading Diggs and a couple of picks for Brandon Ayuk. It wasn't the idea of let's trade all these picks for one player. It was a player with a couple of picks that would supplement the other player. And I guess that's kind of the interesting way of looking at this, is that if I wanted to trade up, you would throw in a pick, you throw in a player like a Stefon Diggs, you know, who got a second round pick,
Wait a
even though it
minute.
was in 2025. You'd
Paul,
still would.
stop. Stop. You just made me think of something. Why couldn't we have just done that instead? Why couldn't we have just traded Stephon Diggs back to the Vikings along with a couple of picks for Justin Jefferson? Could you imagine if we did that? Send Stephon Diggs back to Minnesota. We already were gonna trade him. Why not? I mean, to be fair, I get it. Obviously, that wasn't the idea of what they were going for, but man, that would have been hilarious. And
It would have
I
been
don't know.
something.
I don't want to give up on this team, and I'm not as long as Josh Allen's here. And I
Mhm,
like Brandon Ayuk. Believe me, I really do. He is a stud.
mhm.
I know how much you like him. And honest to God, I just think that this is the time to be aggressive. Bean has already shown signs of wanting to set this team up for success now while they're still young. Why not go for it? You've got 11 draft picks. Well, yeah, you've got 11 draft picks this year, and then you just got an extra
Well, it's
2025.
10 now
Oh, yeah, that's right. It is 10.
because we got rid of that fourth. So it's 10 now, but still a lot of draft
10.
capital.
That's a lot of capital to where you can, a lot of capital this year, and then an extra second round next year in some combination of ways. I just can't see the Bills picking 10 players. I just can't. I feel like there's going to be a trade somewhere. And
I think they're going
honestly,
to make a trade.
wait, what? You
I
said
think
you
they're
think,
going to make
oh,
I
yeah,
think they're going to. I don't
I do
think
too.
Brandon Bean is kind of like what you brought up earlier. An AD Mitchell would be great for the Buffalo Bills. Like, would be great to he would be the great number two the Bills would need to complement with the Stephon Diggs until obviously after next season you ship him away and then AD takes that number one role. That's out of question right now. Like, that's not a question right now for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills need a true number one. They don't
Mhm.
have that. Brian Thomas Jr. was going to be that complement with a Stefon Diggs,
Yep,
and then he takes the role
yep.
after. That's
That's
where you would
what I
trade
was
up for him.
that's what I
The
was
only
saying.
true number one receivers in this draft are going to be taken within the first 10, 11 picks.
Mhm. Yep.
The
Marvin
Bills are
Harrison
setting
Jr., Malik
themselves
Neighbors,
up.
Rome Odunze.
The Bills are setting themselves up for a Julio Jones type of trade. I
Mhm.
think many Bills fans already are starting to feel that. It's
Oh,
just,
for sure.
does Brandon Bean feel like it's good for the team and good for whatever goes through his logical first thinking brain? If he wants to get the Bills over the top, I think it's trading for a guy like a Roman Dunze or a Malik Neighbors.
Mhm.
One, their age. And one, it would be their age. Two, it would be they're on a rookie contract. Diggs wasn't on a rookie contract. That's why he's in Houston right now, because Houston has CJ Stroud, who's on a rookie contract. That's why they're able to be cap merchants and bring everyone else in. You bring a guy like a Roman
Mhm.
Dunze or Malik Neighbors, wide receiver room is set for now, and it's set for the next 4 years when his until
Mhm.
his rookie contract is up. So you would still have Josh Allen, who'd taken his
Yep.
restructures. Then you get Roman Dunze, who would be on a rookie contract. All the cap space for next year accommodates for getting more weapons, more defensive depth slash maybe a key splash signing for the following year. This really segues nicely into how the Bills aren't dead yet,
Exactly.
because we're gonna before we start going into this, we're gonna play Brandon a part of Brandon Bean's press conference here, and it really just really mellows down to his thinking so far. Trading Diggs, what he got in return, and kind of what really lies ahead for the Buffalo Bills, and shows how this team isn't dead yet and won't be for a while. Here's Brandon Bean at his press conference earlier today.
We play in September. So let's be patient and let us work through this. Was it easy? No. But if you make the best decision for the Bills going forward, that's all you can do. You can trust that. And so this organization and our fan base needs to trust that we're going to trot out a damn good team come September. And that's our plan, and that's not changing.
It's not changing. This
Fire
team
me up,
is
Brandon Bean.
going.
Fire me up.
He's going to do something, and he also says, back
Justin
to
Jefferson.
back back to league meetings just a week ago. He says he gets antsy. He Brandon Bean at 28, he's going to get antsy because he knows a guy like an A.D. Mitchell and a Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't push the needle. What pushes the needle is bringing in Malik Neighbors to bring a nice, good jingle to Buffalo, the city of good neighbors,
Oh,
and just
jeez.
it fits. It's a great jingle, by the way. But the Bills and Brandon Bean knows what they have to do. It's just a matter of it. Can they actually execute what they're thinking?
How likely are the Vikings to listen? I am not stopping the delusion train. Not until it does not happen. But no, I have seen too many people talk today about how the Bills are dead. The Bills Super Bowl window is closed. All of my Jacksonville friends, all of my Miami friends, all of my Tampa Bay well, the Tampa Bay friends, they're off celebrating because they just got Randy Gregory. So they can be happy about something at least. Meanwhile, the Dolphins fans I still know are just like, Bills, y'all are dead. And I'm just like, shut up. What? cause do you have to fully believe the Bills are dead? Stefon Diggs leaving this team makes them better. And you hate to admit it, but it makes them better, especially with how the last half of the season went.
Yep.
And to the point, we'll go down your route for a second here, Paul, to kind of paint the hypothetical picture here. But say next year, right, we trade up and we do get Malik Neighbors. Now imagine a
Mhm.
depth chart, Malik Neighbors, uh,
Shakir,
God bless it. Yeah. No, is Curtis Samuel gonna be
Samuel.
slotted above Shakir? Or
Uh,
because
I would think
I don't remember
so,
what.
probably. I would think it would be a two-way 2B type situation.
Yeah,
It's not receiver 1, 2,
yeah.
3.
It would
It's
either be
receiver 1,
Samuel and
2A,
Shakir or
2B,
Shakir and
3.
Samuel.
Yeah. It's
It doesn't really
they
matter
both share
what
that
the
role.
order is
Mhm.
because they're both essentially playing the same role.
Mhm.
So you have a wide receiver room of Malik Neighbors, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir. Oh man. And you've got Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox still on this team. And you've got James Cook, who's been cooking. And maybe with a late pick, you draft a running back like Isaac Gwerned. You know who I'm trying to say, the one from Louisville in late
Oh,
rounds.
Isaac Grendo?
Yeah, him. I can't pronounce his last name. I have no idea how
No,
to, and I just
I
butchered it.
just said it based off how I think Ben said it just a couple nights ago. Grendo,
Valid.
he says. I do want to note that video was taken by Matt Bove of WKBW. Just want to give him some credit. So when he watches it, we're just not stealing his content. That was didn't put the little constry on the top there. So that's who the video was from. He shot it. I didn't. I wasn't there. Matt Bove was there.
Don't you wish you were though?
I wish I was.
Oh man, I just saw this tweet and I had to laugh. Who needs a window when your quarterback can run through a wall? And that's exactly how I feel about it. This window is open as long as Josh Allen is playing this hero ball.
The the whole off season. It's going to start tomorrow when you wake up and you're going to put on first take, or even get up at 8 o'clock, right at the start. It's going to be the window discussion. And all of them are going to say the window is closed because you know why? Because that's the narrative the media wants to trend because they want to be talking about somebody. They don't want to be talking about the Buffalo Bills. Maybe because it's a small market, because they have other things they want to talk about. Immediately today, when the news broke, Stephen A didn't even want to talk about the Bills in this trade. He was talking about the Dallas Cowboys. How does the Cowboys relate to the Stefon Diggs trade? Like, they don't want to talk about the Bills window in the way, you know, we want to talk about it because it's true.
Nah,
The window is not close to being closed.
no
If
way.
you talk about a window closed, talk about the old window. You know,
Mhm,
teams progress through growth. Just think about it,
mhm,
this way. You become a teenager, then you become an adult. When you become an adult, that's the old window. The old window of being a teenager is over. That window, that chapter is closed. When you become an adult, you're starting a new window. That's kind of what the Bills are right now. They were kind of the teenager. That was kind of their teenage years in a way. Building and getting out of the drought. That was window 1. They got out of the drought. They went to the AFC Championship and they really couldn't get any further than that because that was their ceiling. What the Bills are going to say, let's grow up a little bit. Let's grow up. Let's become an adult. And that's what the Bills are trying to do. They're trying to be an adult because they have Josh Allen as quarterback, and with maybe 6 to maybe 9 more years left of Josh Allen, they're trying to extend that ceiling is to where the Chiefs are right now is winning Super Bowls. They just
mhm.
grew up faster. The Bills, they're even though they're an adult, they're still a little immature right now. We're growing up. Bean has to grow up and build this team to where he has to say, we have to build a championship winning roster rather than let's build a AFC divisional winning roster. It's really just that. The old window's closed, we're starting a new one, and that really should be the discussion, is that old window's closed, Bills are starting a new window with different players, it's gonna look different. The preseason overreactions will happen, but
They always will. You got people already saying Brandon Beane should be fired for this, and I'm just like, hold your horses. Why are you out here talking out of? Why are you talking like this?
it's I guess here's the thing. The Brandon Bean firing people, I guess, in a way have a give you a small ounce of attention here for those people.
Oh
If
God.
Bean completely butchers this and says 28, we're going to draft Latu at
Oh,
28,
oh,
and he decides that's or Kool-Aid McKinstry or
oh
somebody
no.
that's not improving anything, okay, then there's the point of, yeah, Bean, what are you doing?
Are
Type of
you
move.
high? Are you
Yeah, it's
actually
like,
high? Stop stealing my sugar.
but they're not doing that. I don't believe Bean would do that.
Nah,
The
we're not talking
nerves,
Chris
the
Greer here. We're talking Brandon Beane.
right, that's where you give him a small ounce of attention is those Bean firing people is that, yes, if Bean completely butchers this, yeah, go storm one Bills drive and take them out, and we become the general managers for the rest of the season.
Oh man.
But it's not I don't think it's happening, and I'm going to believe Brandon Bean's going to make a trade, whether it's on draft night, we're all getting cozy and we're ready to watch the draft, and then the Bills make this move, or it's the night before, we're ready to go to bed and we can't sleep because now we're thinking Rome Dunze is definitely a Buffalo Bill.
Romo Dunze is a
Kind of
Buffalo Bill,
brings
or you know what? You know what, Paul? We get that beat after dark moment. Like at 1 o'clock in the morning, we look and go, we look, okay. Here's the hypothetical I want to paint you right now because we already had this moment once with being after dark. Remember when Deion Dawkins
okay.
got extended? Is it like two
Yeah,
o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning? Imagine
it
at
was
like
close to 2.
yeah, imagine at like 2 o'clock in the morning again. You just randomly wake up and you check your phone and and you open Twitter because you're like, wait, why is my Twitter exploding? And you look down and you see a tweet from Adam Schefter that says, Blockbuster, the Minnesota Vikings are trading Justin Jefferson to the Buffalo Bills. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, being after
That
dark
would be
would be nuts.
okay. You're really are making me believe that the Bills should go
I'm
get Justin Jefferson, and
I am putting it
I think that
into the
was your goal today.
universe. It was. It's my goal for you. It's my goal for literally everybody listening and watching. Justin Jefferson is a Buffalo Bill. And I hope he's listening. If Justin Jefferson somehow finds this, you, sir, need to be a Bill. You would be playing with a great head coach, a great quarterback, which is what you want. I know it's what you want, a great running game, an outstanding defense, and a fan base that is dying to see a Super Bowl. I mean, come on. You know you want to
Okay,
be in Buffalo, Justin Jefferson.
do it.
You
It
know you
just
want to be in Buffalo. Somebody
Justin
tag his agent.
Jefferson Justin
Somebody
Jefferson
watching,
in
tag his
Buffalo would
agent
be
right
great.
now.
Let's kind of get into this final, window-ish type of discussion. Are the Bills still the team to beat in the AFC East?
Duh.
after the Diggs trade.
Duh.
They're, yeah.
The Jets don't
I,
scare me. Oh, what are you going to
no.
do? You got an old quarterback. They are the opposite of us if you think about it like that. Old quarterback, old receiving core aside from Garrett Wilson. They just signed Mike Williams. Mike Williams. So I'm not scared of the Bills of the Jets. The Dolphins lost too many people to be effective. I don't really care that they're talking about trying to sign Odell Beckham Jr. I hear that nothing has come of it yet, and I don't know if anything will. I'm still trying to find out more information, but they did extend an olive branch and a contract to Odell Beckham. But Odell
Mhm.
Beckham is not going to be an indicator of how good they could possibly be. So I'm not scared of the Dolphins. They lost way too many good players on the defensive side of the ball. And then the Patriots are the freaking Patriots. They're rebuilding. So why are people all of a sudden saying the Dolphins are going to win the AFC East now or the Jets are going to win the AFC East? Did Josh Allen get traded too? Like,
True.
did he really get traded? Like, am I missing something? Have I been that delusional all day to where I missed a trade? But no, Josh Allen is still here. Dalton Kincaid is about to become our Travis Kelsey. We're fine. We're going to be fine, especially when that wide receiver trade happens. If it ever happens, which I'm sure it will.
You look at the Bills where they stand. This whole Diggs thing, being traded, it seems like it was, based off some reports that this was happening, just a few weeks ago. It just wasn't reported on until the trade was actually went through. So this was just a closed door type thing until today. Just when Stefon Diggs tweeted "You sure" to a reply to sorry, to a fan that was reply to RG3 basically saying Stefon Diggs made Josh Allen. I don't buy that.
They made each other.
Quarterbacks, they made each really, if you look at Stefon Diggs, even though he played 2 years in Minnesota, he even though he wasn't the true number, he didn't become a number one until he got to Buffalo. You could really
Mhm.
say that.
He
He really
wasn't
wasn't the
the one.
focus.
He was not
No,
the one in Minnesota. Adam Thielen was. Adam
he
Thielen was
was.
the guy you were scared of on that team back then. It was Adam Thielen, then Stephon Diggs. Why did Stephon Diggs have the Minneapolis Miracle attached to him? Because everybody on that Saints team was guarding Adam Thielen.
Yep. So then Stefon Diggs comes to Buffalo. I believe this is Josh Allen's third season as in charge of quarterback, and that was the breakout. I believe that was the Josh Allen breakout year. Because the Bills knew obviously the Bills knew they needed an extra weapon because what they had wasn't good enough, for a breakout season. But, does did Diggs help in a way in the first year? Possibly, but after that, when a quarterback becomes as good as Josh Allen, he's
Not
supposed
many
to be
do.
the guy that can grow the receiving core just by his sheer talent. If
Mhm.
you take away what Josh Allen did in the second half of this season, he was the reason you could say the Bills turned their season around last year. He was making better plays. He was throwing to other receivers, i.e., Khalil Shakir, and he made Shakir better. He threw to Shakir because he knew Shakir could get open, and Shakir was there, and he made Shakir into a guy that we think could be an important piece to the Buffalo Bills in 2024.
Mhm.
Josh Allen has taken his game to an elite level type of play where he could play with anyone at wide receiver. It's just the wide receivers just have to do their job so Josh Allen can do his job
Mhm.
correctly.
Josh Allen is more reliable at doing his job correctly than most of the receivers, except Shakir. Shakir had that insanely high catch rate. So there's that. And oh man, there are a lot more questions than answers right now. And I kind of hate it. I just kind of hate it.
The uncertainty of what Bean's next move might be scares me,
Mhm.
because we know the track record of Brandon Bean in first rounds of the draft. It's normally defensive players. And he
Way.
really, in his press conference, he didn't hint at wide, he really didn't fully hint where the Bills were going round one. He says, depth, let's add, we can add some depth at certain positions, defense, and, bring some more competition for wide receiver. Obviously, it's probably a tactical move to not to give other teams the idea of what he might do in the first round, but it doesn't give me that reassurance that Bean is fully in receiver round one. That's that's the thing. I don't know if Bean's firm grasp is wide receiver round one as the rest of the fan base is. I would say 90% of this 98% of this fan base is wide receiver or bust. I don't
I'd say
think
it's
Brandon
99
Bean.
now, actually.
Okay, 99. But it still gives the same message across. I don't know if Brandon Bean is full wide receiver or bust in the first round, which is kind of scary. I feel like he's not going to make the move to move the needle forward after the Sticks trade. Shakir, Samuel are great wide receivers. You have Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, great tight
Yep.
ends. You have James Cook, who is an electrifying running back. But what if Shakir doesn't turn out what we think he can turn out to be? Or he hits a wall at one point, or this receiving core isn't
He'll be fine.
what it's supposed to be.
We got Josh
Well,
Allen.
then
We'll be
Josh,
fine.
then you got Josh Allen. Correct. But it just gets into that weird stumble the Buffalo Bills continuously happen every year. You got to get a number one wide receiver.
Mhm.
That's that you have to. You can't, you can. People are saying, well, the Chiefs didn't have a true number one and they still won the Super Bowl. They had Andy Reid coaching their team, they had
Mhm.
Andy Reid calling their offense,
They also have
and they
Travis
also had
Kelce, who
Patrick.
might be one of the
True.
best tight ends that we've ever seen in our lives.
you know, the Bills do have Josh Allen at quarterback, and he can
Mhm.
certainly, and he can, with the weapons that we have right now, he could certainly do what Patrick Mahomes did with the Andy Reid offense and lead them to a Super Bowl, lead them further. I mean, he showed it in the second half of last year, and he continues to show it every game that he steps on the field. It's just he doesn't, Joe Brady isn't the same play caller, the same scheme manager as an Andy Reid.
We have no idea what Joe Brady's going to bring to the table, and that just makes it even more
Right.
exciting.
It
Who
makes it more
knows
exciting, also makes
exactly?
it a little bit more nervous
Oh, please. I'm more excited than I am
if
nervous, but that's probably just the optimist in me injecting all the hopium right into my veins.
if Brandon Bean for surely thinks drafting AD Mitchell at 28 is a good decision. It doesn't move the needle as much, but it gives you AD Mitchell. He might not be that insert plug and play guy year one, but he will grow throughout the season because you've got the quarterback of Josh Allen.
Mhm.
Josh Allen will make AD Mitchell into a promising player. believe me, if Josh Allen, if AD Mitchell, he played with Quinn Ewers in college. Quinn Ewers was a good quarterback, but
I'm kidding.
put put him in a system with Josh Allen, he explodes. Josh Allen's arm, he would be able to catch up to Josh Allen's deep balls. He would be able to separate and get able to separate on the sidelines and over the middle of the field. Josh Allen would love that, and he would make AD Mitchell into a promising player, most likely the minute he steps onto the field.
Yeah,
And I would
I could
trust
see
that.
it. I would too. I would definitely trust Josh Allen's ability to elevate any wide receiver around him. And the last, just to close out, I'm going to say it one more time. Josh Allen elevating Justin Jefferson's game in ways that Kirk Cousins could never perform. We all want to see it. I know everybody wants to see it. Even if you can't, even if you don't think it'll happen, even if you think I'm crazy, just roll with it. Think about it. Think if anything that could possibly happen. Justin Jefferson being in a Bills uniform would just sell it. Would just sell
It
it.
would.
Put us in the Super Bowl right then. I don't even care what you did. I do not care how you fill out the defense in the latter half of the draft after you've got those picks to Minnesota for Jefferson. You
Mhm.
could still get lucky enough and maybe get Cole Bishop. Maybe you even
That
get
would be
lucky
great.
enough. That would be incredible. Getting that lucky, even with giving the picks up. Maybe you get a guy in the later rounds like James Williams, the other Miami safety that isn't Cam Kinchins, or you get a guy like Brendan Jackson, the edge from Washington State, in the later rounds because you used all those first rounders on Justin Jefferson. You could still fill out the defense and you can make this team something special. I can see the vision and I won't shut up about the vision. Not until it does not happen. So with that, on that fiery note, we're gonna end the show. It has been well over an hour. Oh my god. We've talked about a lot. So one other reminder that we are still doing a giveaway. Don't forget the first round draft pick. If we have one, if we don't, then maybe it'll just be a Justin Jefferson jersey and a Bills uniform or a second round pick. But if it's Malik Neighbors, if it's Romo Dunze, Adonai Mitchell, even Keon Coleman, whoever it is, we are going to give away one of those jerseys. All you have to do is remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and retweet our tweet, and you'll be entered to win. Because I know somebody wants that Justin Jefferson jersey when he is a Bill, like he is going to be.
49 people want it so far. That's how many we have so far
Yeah,
entered. So
49 people entered for a Justin Jefferson Bills jersey. I just want you all to manifest it because it's happening. I did not manifest it hard enough last night when I made the comment, when I quote tweeted one of Jenna's posts about Allen and Diggs. I will manifest Allen to Jefferson much, much harder, I promise. With that, thank you everyone for watching. Justin Jefferson is about to be a Bill, and go Bills.
go Bills.